Ex-husband flaunts his fiancée, unaware his ex-wife's new boyfriend is a billionaire. Rachel Morgan never imagined she'd face her ex-husband, Andrew, again under such extraordinary circumstances. The last time they spoke, they'd signed their divorce papers and parted ways in a haze of heartbreak and resentment. Now, 2 years later, he's flaunting his dazzling fiancée, Samantha Preston, at a high-profile event, oblivious to the astonishing secret behind Rachel's new boyfriend, Elijah Saunders. What Andrew doesn't know is that Elijah isn't just any humble philanthropist. He's a billionaire with staggering power and influence, ready to sweep Rachel into a life of luxury she'd never dared dream of. Prepare for a roller coaster of revenge, scandal, and bittersweet redemption. Rain battered the windows of the small cafe on West 45th Street as Rachel Morgan sipped her cappuccino. It was an unseasonably cold afternoon in mid-June, and the cafe, called Tilly's Brew, bustled with customers seeking refuge from the downpour. Rachel, dressed in a simple navy blue blouse and jeans, felt a strange mix of tranquility and lingering anxiety. A year ago, she couldn't have imagined sitting here, at peace with herself, after the emotional storm that had been her divorce. Her mind slipped back to the day she and Andrew had signed the final documents. There'd been anger, regrets, and tears enough to fill an ocean. They'd begun their marriage as starry-eyed college sweethearts who believed love was enough to conquer the world. But over time, Andrew's ambition had soured into ruthless competition, and Rachel's dreams of a supportive partner had crumbled under constant criticism. They argued about money, lifestyles, the future. Finally, the cracks became chasms. A blaring horn outside jolted her from her thoughts. She checked her phone for messages. Elijah Saunders, a man she'd begun seeing 2 months ago, had promised he'd join her after his meeting. They were supposed to head to an art gallery event afterward, hosted by her dear friend Jessica Kim, an up-and-coming curator. Rachel felt that old, self-protective voice inside, reminding her not to hope too much. Yet Elijah had never given her a reason to doubt him. He was gentle, respectful, and strangely humble for a man whose gestures of generosity often left her speechless. At that exact moment, the bell over the cafe door jingled. Rachel looked up, expecting to see Elijah. Instead, her heart almost stopped. Andrew Morgan stepped inside, shaking off his umbrella. He hadn't changed much. Still tall, still confident, still with the faintest hint of arrogance in how he scanned the room. Her gut tightened, an old ache flared. She considered ducking behind her coffee cup, but it was too late. He'd spotted her. "Rachel," he said, approaching her table with cautious curiosity. "Wow, long time no see." Andrew wore a charcoal suit that probably cost as much as a month's rent in Midtown. His hair, once boyish and unruly, was now impeccably styled. He looked every bit the corporate success he'd aimed to be. Andrew glanced at the seat across from her. Without waiting for an invitation, he sat down, ignoring the line of customers behind him. Typical Andrew. He always had to be the center of attention. "Yes, indeed, it's been a while," Rachel said, trying to keep her voice even. Despite her attempts at calm, her hands trembled slightly, and she placed her coffee cup back on its saucer to steady herself. It was surreal to face him again in such a random moment. She briefly wondered how life had been treating him. For an instant, she recalled the vicious arguments that had escalated to their parting accusations about who contributed more financially, who was more supportive, who sacrificed more. She took a measured breath, determined not to let those memories ruin her newfound sense of self. "You look, well," Andrew continued. "I heard you moved back downtown. How've you been?" He tried to smile, but it came off a bit forced. They were no longer the same people who'd once shared a home and a bed. I'm doing fine, Rachel replied. Just taking things a day at a time. And you? Busy as ever. I was just meeting a client nearby. He paused, drumming his fingers on the table. Listen, I know things ended on a bad note. Rachel braced for him to bring up the past or deliver some harsh critique. Instead, he cleared his throat and picked up a napkin, wiping a non-existent spill from the table, stalling. Andrew might have had a slight twinge of guilt. She could see it in his shifting eyes. But I do hope you're all right, he finished. I am, she said softly. She wasn't sure if that was 100% truth, or if she just wanted to believe it. Really, I'm okay. That was when the cafe door swung open again, letting in another gust of wind and drizzle. Rachel's heart soared. Elijah stepped in, scanning the room, tall and elegant in a tailored navy blazer and matching slacks. He spotted Rachel, and a warm smile lit his face. Andrew followed her gaze, confusion flickering in his eyes. Rachel, hey, Elijah said, walking over with a certain quiet confidence. Sorry I'm late. The meeting ran over. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and leaned down to give her a soft kiss on the cheek. Andrew arched an eyebrow. So this is? Rachel felt a momentary pang of awkwardness. Andrew, this is Elijah Saunders, my boyfriend. Elijah, this is Andrew Morgan, my ex-husband. The tension that settled over the table was almost palpable. Elijah's expression remained gracious. He extended a hand to Andrew, who shook it somewhat stiffly. Nice to meet you, Elijah said, maintaining his composure. Likewise, Andrew offered. He sounded more polite than he looked. His eyes flickered over Elijah, sizing him up the way one might assess a competitor. Well, I'd better get going. I have to pick up Samantha soon. Rachel felt a sudden jolt at the name. Samantha. She vaguely recalled Andrew mentioning a co-worker by that name during their last year of marriage, a co-worker he seemed to admire excessively. Or maybe that was her insecurities talking. Either way, the mention of her replaced any sadness with a simmering annoyance. Andrew was engaged, apparently. She quickly schooled her face to remain neutral. Nice bumping into you, Rachel, Andrew continued. He nodded at Elijah. And it was nice to meet you, Mr. Saunders. Maybe we'll cross paths again sometime. Elijah gave a polite smile. Perhaps. Take care. With that, Andrew slipped out of the cafe, leaving behind the faint smell of expensive cologne and a swirl of unanswered questions. Elijah pulled out a chair and sat down, placing a careful hand on Rachel's. Are you all right? He asked quietly. Rachel forced a smile, determined not to let the chance encounter rattle her. I'm okay, she murmured. Just surprising, that's all. He squeezed her hand gently. If he ever bothers you, or if you need space, just let me know. I can handle. No, it's fine, she interrupted. I'm over him. At least, I think I am. She sighed, thinking about how Andrew's presence still made her chest tighten. Let's just go to the gallery show. Jessica's expecting us. Elijah nodded and stood, helping Rachel with her coat like a perfect gentleman. As they stepped back into the rainy street, Rachel realized Andrew had left her with a million conflicting thoughts swirling inside. Little did she know this chance encounter was only the beginning of a tangled web about to unfold, a web that would pit old resentments against new hopes and reveal secrets so shocking that no one involved could possibly emerge unchanged. 2 days later, Rachel found herself in a sunlit corner of her apartment, sifting through old photograph albums she'd stuffed in a storage box after the divorce. Why she'd chosen this exact moment to revisit old memories, she couldn't fully explain. Perhaps seeing Andrew had triggered a wave of nostalgia, good, bad, and everything in between. Her phone chimed. It was Jessica Kim texting, "Did you see the article in the Post about Andrew's upcoming engagement party? Heard they're going huge, like get your name in the society pages huge. You okay?" Rachel frowned. She typed back quickly, "I'm fine, just a bit surprised. We ran into each other yesterday, Jessica replied with a barrage of shocked emojis, followed by, he's flaunting Samantha big time. She's apparently from an influential family. Rumor is they're hosting an over-the-top event next month. If you need moral support, you know I'm here. Rachel exhaled deeply. So that was it. Andrew, always obsessed with status, was announcing his new engagement with fanfare. Deep inside, a flicker of hurt flared. They had once talked about a modest wedding vow renewal when they'd reached their 10-year anniversary, just a private event with close friends. Now, that dream was worthless, overshadowed by his grand new spectacle. Glancing back at the photos, she came across one from their college days. Andrew, all messy hair and bright eyes, hugging her tight in front of their campus dorm. The memory of that young, hopeful couple made her chest ache. How had it all gone so terribly wrong? She set the photo aside, determined not to let her emotions spiral. Her life had changed since the divorce. She had her own brand new architecture studio to manage Morgan Designs, ironically keeping the surname because her business had been registered under that name prior to the split. She'd built a modest but growing clientele. And then there was Elijah, who'd appeared in her life like a breath of fresh air. She thought of Elijah's warm smile and gentle manner. They met at a charity gala Jessica had invited her to months ago. He'd been there under the radar, introduced as a philanthropic donor to various social causes. The two had hit it off, discussing art, architecture, and travel. She'd only learned the barest hints about his actual wealth, an inheritance from his late grandfather, some partial ownership in a tech conglomerate, because Elijah rarely discussed finances. When he'd asked her out on a date, she'd hesitated, uncertain if she was ready. But something about Elijah inspired trust. They'd been quietly building a relationship ever since. Her phone pinged again, pulling her from her reverie. This time it was a message from Elijah himself, early dinner tonight. Or I can swing by your studio and we can grab drinks after. Rachel smiled at the screen. A sense of gratitude washed over her. She sent a reply, "Dinner sounds perfect. I'm about to head to the studio for a few hours, but I'll be free by 6. See you then." She returned the photograph albums to their dusty box and tucked them away in a closet, hoping she could do the same with the emotional baggage they carried. Andrew and Samantha's big engagement party would no doubt become gossip fodder. Rachel just had to keep moving forward with her own life, reminding herself that the past was the past. Yet deep down, she couldn't shake a strange feeling that her paths with Andrew weren't done crossing, and that the ex-husband she thought she'd left behind might come roaring back into her life, pulling trouble along with him. The chime above the elegant French bistro's door jingled as Elijah guided Rachel in, a hand lightly placed at the small of her back. Le Papillon was an upscale place on the Upper East Side, famous for its layered souffles and impeccable wine list. Soft jazz, music and warm light from vintage chandeliers welcomed them. The maitre d' recognized Elijah immediately and led them to a private corner table, away from prying eyes. Rachel settled into her seat, scanning the table setting of gleaming silverware and crisp white linens. She noticed other couples at nearby tables, some of them glancing in Elijah's direction as though they recognized him, or at least suspected he was someone important. It was something she'd grown used to. Whenever they went out, there always seemed to be a hint of speculation in people's stares. Elijah handled it with polite indifference, never revealing more than necessary. "I've taken the liberty of ordering a bottle of your favorite red," Elijah told her, his smile lighting up his face. "I thought we could celebrate your new design contract." Rachel's lips curved upward. Earlier that day, she'd signed a major contract with a boutique hotel chain, something that could catapult her architecture studio into the next league. They'd found her work on social media and reached out, after seeing her portfolio. "That's so thoughtful," she said. "I still can't believe they chose me." Elijah reached across the table and took her hand. "You deserve every success. Congratulations." A sommelier approached with the wine, pouring them each a glass. They toasted quietly, the soft clink of crystal echoing in the intimate space. Rachel took a sip, the velvety texture of the wine warming her throat. They exchanged news about their day. Elijah mentioned an upcoming trip to London for a philanthropic conference, carefully avoiding too many details of his financial dealings. Rachel spoke excitedly about the upcoming designs she was conceptualizing for the hotel chain. Halfway through the meal, a sumptuous coq au vin for her and a seared salmon for him, Elijah cleared his throat. "I've been thinking," he began, glancing down at his plate as though rehearsing his words, "about introducing you to some people in my circle. Friends, business associates. I just want them to know about the amazing woman I'm with." Rachel paused, fork halfway to her mouth. "You do?" she asked, heart fluttering. They had been dating for a couple of months, but she still felt they were in a delicate stage. Meeting people in his circle sounded potentially overwhelming, given that Elijah's circle was likely full of high-powered individuals. He nodded, setting down his napkin. "I don't want to push you into anything, but there's a fundraiser next week. I'd like you by my side, if that's okay." A swirl of emotions tugged at her: excitement, curiosity, a bit of fear. "Of course," she replied softly. "I'd be honored." Elijah's face lit up. He reached for her hand again, rubbing his thumb gently over her knuckles. "Thank you. I'm really happy to have you in my life, Rachel." They lingered over dessert, an exquisite flourless chocolate torte, and spoke about simpler things: favorite books, childhood memories, future travel plans. Rachel found herself drifting in the warmth of possibility, letting go of the dark corners of her past. Andrew's name hovered unspoken between them, but she felt no need to bring him up tonight. This was her time with Elijah, a space free of regrets. By the time they finished, the bistro was closing. They stepped out into the crisp night air. "I'll drive you home," Elijah said, leading her to a sleek black sedan waiting at the curb. She recalled the first time he'd shown up with a driver. She'd insisted on taking a cab to meet him because it seemed too extravagant to arrive in a chauffeured car. Over time, she'd grown more comfortable, though she still insisted on paying her own way whenever possible. Inside the car, Elijah's arm draped around her shoulders, and she leaned into him, relaxed. She closed her eyes, letting the glow of streetlights flash across the windows as they wound through the city. The hum of the engine lulled her into a peaceful reverie. In that moment, she dared to believe that her life could move forward, unburdened by the heartbreak that once consumed her. Morning sunlight spilled through the tall windows of Rachel's architecture studio. She sat at her drafting table, carefully finalizing sketches for the boutique hotel project. Pencil lines grew into elegant curves and arches, capturing her vision for a modern yet cozy interior. The desk phone rang, startling her from her focused zone. "Rachel Morgan, Morgan Designs," she answered, tucking the pencil behind her ear. "Rachel, it's me, Jessica," came her friend's excited voice. "You're not going to believe this. I just heard from a colleague at the New York Chronicle that Andrew and Samantha are hosting an engagement soiree at the Four Seasons next week. And guess what else? They're apparently inviting everyone from your old social circle friends, acquaintances, even some of your mutual clients." Rachel's stomach flipped. "Why on earth would they invite me, though?" That's the thing. Word is Andrew doesn't want you there, but Samantha apparently insisted. She told the Chronicle she wants a harmonious future. Or maybe she's just trying to show off." Jessica paused. "I know you probably don't care anymore, but I think it might be important for you to be aware, just in case an invitation shows up." Rachel exhaled slowly. She hadn't thought Andrew's engagement would swirl so publicly, but given his thirst for social status, it wasn't surprising. "Thanks for letting me know," Rachel said. "If I get invited, I'll think carefully before responding. Just remember you don't owe them anything," Jessica added. "By the way, how's Elijah?" At the mention of Elijah, Rachel's lips curved. "He's good. He wants to introduce me to his circle at some fancy fundraiser. Actually, that's also next week. I have a feeling my schedule's about to get hectic." Jessica laughed. "Better you than me. I'm thrilled for you, though. If you need a +1 to Andrew's fiasco or a bodyguard, I'm here." They hung up, and Rachel stared at the phone for a moment. She was certain that Andrew's engagement party would be a glittering spectacle of high society and corporate elites. Samantha Preston Rachel, now remembered, came from old money in Boston. She'd been rumored to be a shrewd corporate lawyer. Andrew probably saw her as both a romantic and strategic match. That afternoon, a delivery courier brought a large, cream-colored envelope with gold embossing. Rachel felt her pulse spike. The return address read, "Mr. Andrew Morgan and Miss Samantha Preston." She sighed. So the rumor was true. They really had invited her. Inside, the invitation was thick and glossy, detailing the upcoming soiree at the Four Seasons. Rachel folded it back into the envelope, uncertain whether to toss it in the trash or stash it away. Part of her thought it was a power move by Samantha, an attempt to appear gracious or to rub Rachel's nose in their new status. Later that evening, as she unwound at home, Rachel mulled over the invitation. She'd share it with Elijah and see what he thought. Maybe they could skip it altogether. She had no desire to watch Andrew flaunt his fiancée. Then again, a small voice inside her whispered that it might be cathartic to walk in with her own date, someone who truly valued her, and show them. She wasn't the broken woman Andrew had left behind. She pulled out her phone and called Elijah. He picked up on the second ring. "Rachel, hey, I was just thinking of you." "Well, I've just received something interesting," Rachel said, her voice tinged with irony. "An invitation to Andrew's engagement soiree." Elijah paused. "How are you feeling about that?" She curled up on her couch, hugging a throw pillow. "Conflicted. Part of me doesn't want to go, but another part of me, I'm curious. Maybe I want closure, or maybe I just want to show that I'm okay. Also, Samantha specifically invited me. It feels like a trap, but maybe I'm overthinking it." Elijah's tone was gentle. "I'll support whatever you decide. If you want me by your side, just say the word. If you don't want to go, we can do something else. Somewhere far away from that spectacle." Rachel's tension eased at his understanding. "I'll think about it," she said. "In the meantime, we still have your fundraiser next week. I'll focus on that for now." Little did Rachel know, the upcoming events would collide in ways she couldn't predict. The worlds of Andrew, Samantha, and Elijah were on a collision course, and when they finally met, the fallout would be unlike anything Rachel had ever experienced. The following week arrived in a flurry of nerves and excitement. Rachel stood in front of the mirror in Elijah's penthouse, an expansive modern space overlooking Central Park. She wore an elegant emerald green evening gown that highlighted her figure. Jessica had come over earlier to help style her hair into a loose chignon. Now, her reflection exuded a quiet confidence she wasn't entirely sure she felt. Elijah, adjusting his cufflinks, stepped up beside her. "You look breathtaking," he murmured, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. "Are you ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Rachel said, managing a small smile. "I still don't know who all will be there." Elijah hesitated for a moment. "It's going to be a mix of philanthropists, investors, and a few celebrities who champion various causes. These events can get a bit overwhelming, so if at any point you want to leave, just let me know." They arrived at the grand ballroom of the Laurelwood Hotel, greeted by cameras flashing and a flurry of wealthy donors stepping out of sleek cars. Rachel stayed close to Elijah, feeling a flood of relief when they finally passed through the entrance and into the elegantly decorated hall. Chandeliers glittered overhead, and servers circulated with champagne flutes. Almost immediately, a striking woman with auburn hair rushed forward. "Elijah, darling," she cooed, air kissing both of his cheeks. "So good to see you. And who is this stunning lady?" Elijah placed a hand at Rachel's back. "Monica, meet Rachel Morgan, my girlfriend." "Rachel, this is Monica Herrera, a board member of the Global Arts Foundation." Monica's eyes lit up. "Pleasure to meet you, my dear. Elijah's told me you're an architect. How wonderful. We must chat about our new cultural center we're designing in Brooklyn." They exchanged pleasantries. Rachel felt slightly dazed by Monica's enthusiasm. As more people drifted over, the conversations followed a similar pattern: polite greetings, mild curiosity about Rachel's background, then pivoting to philanthropic or business interests. She quickly realized that many of these people moved in orbits of unimaginable wealth, forging alliances through donations and social events. Midway through the evening, she stepped away to admire a display featuring the foundation's accomplishments, photos of hospitals built in rural regions, arts scholarships awarded, and environmental restoration projects. She was quietly reading a plaque about a conservation effort in Africa when a voice startled her from behind. "Rachel Morgan, is that you?" The voice was male, vaguely familiar. She turned to see David Russell, an old acquaintance of Andrew's, and a man with whom Andrew had once discussed real estate ventures. David's eyes widened in recognition. "I almost didn't believe it." "How are you?" Rachel forced a polite smile. "I'm well, David. Didn't expect to see you here." "I'm a sponsor," he replied, swirling the wine in his glass. "Always good for business to donate to worthy causes, right?" He gave a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Actually, I've got a table next to Andrew Morgan at the upcoming engagement event." "You planning to attend?" Rachel felt her posture stiffen. Still deciding, she said carefully. David let out a low chuckle. "You should go. Andrew's been bragging non-stop about his new fiancée. Something about her father's connections in DC. He's definitely on a roll. You might want to see what you're missing." A flash of annoyance rippled through her. "Trust me, I'm not missing anything. Besides, I'm here with someone else," she said, glancing around for Elijah, hoping to end this uncomfortable conversation. David caught the hint. "All right, I'll let you go. Take care, Rachel." He ambled off, glass of wine in hand, leaving her with a bitter taste of the past. She exhaled, leaning against the display. Suddenly, a warm palm touched her shoulder. She turned to see Elijah, concern in his gaze. "Everything all right?" She forced a smile. "Yeah, just someone from my old life. Let's go get some air." He nodded, guiding her out to a terrace overlooking the city skyline. Cool evening air brushed her cheeks. She closed her eyes, feeling Elijah's presence behind her. "Rachel," he said quietly, "I know running into people from your past can stir up unwelcome memories. But I hope you know I'm here for you." She turned to face him, tears threatening to form. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm fine. It's just that my ex-husband's engagement party is days away, and I guess I'm still dealing with how he used to undermine me." "I don't want to be that woman who can't let go." Elijah brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You're not that woman. But if you decide you need to go to that engagement event for closure, I'll come with you." A small spark of gratitude flickered in her chest. "I appreciate that," she said, stepping closer to rest her head on his shoulder. High above the city, under the glow of skyscraper lights, Rachel began to sense that events were swirling in a direction she could not fully predict. Something told her that Andrew's lavish celebration would be more than just an engagement party. Secrets were stirring, some of which might change everything she believed about her past and her future. The Four Seasons Hotel shimmered with opulence as Rachel arrived hand in hand with Elijah. She'd decided, after much thought, that attending Andrew's engagement soiree was a necessary step to fully close the chapter on her former marriage. Elijah, in a sleek black tux, was a fortress of calm beside her. Rachel wore a midnight blue gown that contrasted beautifully with her dark hair, and she felt a surge of confidence she wished she'd possessed years ago. A red carpet lined the entrance, where paparazzi snapped photos of notable guests, many of them CEOs, politicians, and socialites. As they stepped inside, a lavish floral arrangement dominated the foyer, and classical music floated from a string quartet in the ballroom. Waiters glided through the crowd carrying trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvre. Within minutes, Andrew appeared. He looked sharp in a tailored suit, his expression tinged with surprise as he caught sight of Rachel and Elijah. Andrew's fiancée, Samantha, stood at his side, an ethereal figure in a shimmering silver gown, her auburn hair styled into an elegant updo. Samantha's eyes flickered with interest as she recognized Rachel. "Rachel," Samantha greeted with a cordial smile, extending a hand. "I'm so glad you could make it. Andrew mentioned he ran into you not long ago." Rachel shook her hand, noticing the massive diamond on Samantha's ring finger. She plastered on her own polite smile. "Thank you for inviting me." Andrew cleared his throat. "Elijah," he said, nodding in acknowledgement. "Nice to see you again." Elijah responded with a quiet courtesy. "Likewise. Congratulations on your engagement." A somewhat awkward pause followed, broken when Samantha touched Andrew's arm and excused them to greet other guests. Rachel exhaled. She cast Elijah a grateful look. "Well, that wasn't too bad," she whispered, though her pulse was still racing. They made their way deeper into the ballroom, sampling canapes and greeting a few acquaintances. Jessica was there with her boyfriend, waving Rachel over to a corner. They chatted for a while, Jessica slipping in witty remarks about Andrew's pretentious decor choices. Even so, an undercurrent of tension wove through the evening. As they watched from afar, Andrew and Samantha commanded the crowd. Samantha seemed perfectly poised, a glimmer of sophistication in every gesture. Andrew, for his part, looked proud, almost smug, as he introduced Samantha to key figures in the room. It was a spectacle of social maneuvering that made Rachel's head spin. Partway through the night, a hush fell over the ballroom. Andrew tapped a microphone. "Good evening, everyone," he said, his voice echoing. "Samantha and I want to thank you for joining us to celebrate our engagement. We're thrilled to share our happiness with all of you." Polite applause rippled across the room. Samantha took the mic with a gracious smile. "I couldn't be more grateful to have Andrew by my side. We look forward to many more milestones together, and we're touched to have our friends and family supporting us tonight. Thank you." Another round of applause. Andrew handed the mic to the band, which struck up a lively tune. People resumed chatting as waiters delivered fresh champagne. Elijah turned to Rachel. "You've handled yourself like a queen," he whispered. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "I think this is enough closure for me. Maybe we can slip out soon." Then, from behind them, a voice sneered. "Slipping out so soon? You haven't even congratulated the happy couple properly." It was Andrew's mother, Patricia Morgan, a woman with a penchant for wearing pearls and disapproval. She'd always liked Rachel at first, until the divorce, when she'd apparently decided Rachel was at fault. "Hello, Patricia," Rachel said, keeping her tone steady. Patricia eyed Elijah up and down. "And who is this gentleman?" Before Rachel could speak, Elijah smiled politely. "My name is Elijah Saunders, ma'am. I'm here with Rachel." Patricia's gaze narrowed, as if calculating net worth by sight alone. "You look familiar. Have we met somewhere before?" Elijah's calm exterior betrayed no discomfort. "I'm not sure," he said evenly. "Perhaps at a charity gala?" "That must be it." Patricia sniffed, turning her attention back to Rachel. I suppose it's good you've moved on, though some of us wonder if you'll ever truly appreciate what Andrew brought to your life. Elijah's jaw tightened subtly, but he said nothing, allowing Rachel to respond. She refused to shrink from Patricia's condescension. With all due respect, I don't think that's any of your concern anymore. I wish Andrew and Samantha well. Patricia's lips thinned. Well, do enjoy the party. She pivoted and walked away, leaving a cloud of tension in her wake. Elijah placed a supportive hand on Rachel's back. You all right? Fine, Rachel said quietly. Let's step outside for a moment. They strolled onto a small terrace overlooking the city lights. The music and chatter from inside softened. Rachel finally exhaled a long breath, releasing the pent-up tension. That woman always made me feel inadequate. Elijah rubbed her shoulder soothingly. You're far from inadequate. I'm proud of you for standing your ground. A gust of wind tousled Rachel's hair. She turned toward Elijah, about to thank him again, when a swirl of voices from inside the ballroom caught their attention. They exchanged curious looks and stepped back in to see Andrew at the microphone once more, Samantha at his side, but this time they appeared flustered. Please, everyone, remain calm. Andrew's voice boomed through the speakers. The crowd seemed unsettled. Rachel spotted a burly security guard weaving through guests, heading in her direction. Alarmed, she wondered what was happening. Excuse me, Mr. Saunders, the guard said, eyes darting between Elijah and Andrew on stage. Could you come with me, please? Rachel's heart plunged. She gripped Elijah's arm. What's going on? The guard looked uncomfortable. We received a tip that a certain guest might be here under false pretenses. A hush fell as guests turned to watch the commotion. Andrew took the mic again, his voice tight. Elijah Saunders, we need to verify your credentials. We can't have anyone crashing this event. A wave of disbelief rippled through Rachel. She shot Andrew a glare. You invited us indirectly, but still. Samantha stepped up to the mic, her gaze flicking nervously between Andrew and Elijah. Look, Andrew, this doesn't have to be a scene. Elijah raised his hands calmly. It's all right, he said, addressing the guard. I can clarify who I am. He turned, scanning the crowd. But I'd like to know who's behind this tip. People were whispering, the rumor mill churning. Rachel glared at Andrew, wondering if he orchestrated this humiliation. Andrew, for his part, looked baffled. Patricia, standing nearby, seemed smug. Suddenly, a well-dressed older man in the corner, someone Rachel recognized as Samantha's father, Gerald Preston, spoke up. I placed the call, he said in a clipped tone. He stepped forward, leveling Elijah with a steely look. I've heard rumors about you, Mr. Saunders. Rumors that you claim to be wealthy, philanthropic, but no one can pinpoint the source of your fortune. We can't allow just anyone into these circles. Rachel felt outrage boil in her veins. He's not just anyone. Elijah gently squeezed her hand, signaling her to remain calm. He faced Gerald Preston with remarkable composure. Sir, you're correct that I typically keep a low profile about my finances, but let me assure you, I'm more than capable of attending this event. If you'd like, we can step aside and verify any credentials you need. A tense standoff ensued. Andrew cleared his throat, uncertain. Samantha looked mortified by her father's outburst. The security guard hovered, awaiting instructions. Elijah calmly reached into his jacket pocket and produced a business card. He handed it to the guard and said, If you call this number, my offices can confirm my identity. I'm a principal investor in Arclight Tech, among other ventures. A ripple of recognition swept through the crowd. Arclight Tech was a major name in the technology sector. Gerald Preston paled, snatching the card from the guard to read it. Andrew's eyes flickered with confusion and perhaps envy. Samantha's father exhaled, obviously realizing he'd made a grave error in publicly confronting Elijah. The guard spoke quietly into his earpiece for a moment, then nodded. "It's confirmed, sir." "My apologies, Mr. Saunders." He stepped back, letting Elijah stand unimpeded. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Elijah turned toward Andrew and Samantha, keeping his voice poised. "Congratulations again on your engagement. I think we'll be leaving now." With that, he took Rachel's arm, leading her out. Jessica trailed behind them, muttering curses under her breath at the humiliation they'd just endured. Outside in the lobby, Rachel's emotions erupted. "I can't believe they tried to throw you out like some imposter." She blinked back tears of anger. Elijah's expression softened. "I've dealt with worse. Let's just go home." And as they stepped into the night, a single undeniable fact hardened in Rachel's mind. Andrew and Samantha had not only tried to embarrass her, but also Elijah. The gloves were off now, and the next encounter would undoubtedly bring even more explosive revelations. The morning after the disastrous engagement soiree, social media lit up with gossip. Word had spread quickly about the confrontation at the Four Seasons. Several tabloids and society blogs carried headlines such as "Billionaire investor mistaken for party crasher" and "Fiancée's father spark showdown at lavish engagement." Rachel awoke to texts from Jessica describing the fiasco's online aftermath in gleeful detail. Even Andrew had tried calling her phone late last night, leaving a voicemail that she ignored. She wasn't interested in his excuses, but curiosity drove her to play it. His voice sounded flustered. "Rachel, hey. I'm sorry about what happened tonight. I had no idea Samantha's father would react that way. Look, maybe we can talk sometime soon, clear the air." "Let me know." She deleted the message, annoyance mingling with a strange satisfaction. She took solace in the fact that Elijah's identity was finally out in the open. He was no longer the quiet man on the sidelines, but a formidable figure who commanded respect in elite circles. Elijah, for his part, responded to the drama with characteristic calm. That morning, he invited Rachel to his penthouse for breakfast. Over coffee and pastries, he broke down the entire fiasco with mild amusement. "I guess the Prestons have it in their head that I'm some con artist who seduced my way into high society. It's not the first time someone's doubted my intentions." Rachel frowned over the rim of her mug. "It's not fair. You have to prove yourself every time. You've done so much good with your philanthropic work." He shrugged. "Money complicates relationships. People see the fortune and either want something from me or suspect I have some hidden agenda." Reaching across the small cafe table in his living room, he brushed his thumb over her hand. "It's one reason I don't talk about it much, but I don't want you to get caught in the crossfire either." Rachel shook her head, entwining her fingers with his. "I'm proud of who you are, Elijah. If someone has a problem with it, that's on them." A softness flickered in his eyes, and he leaned forward to press a gentle kiss on her forehead. Just then, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, eyebrows knitting together. "Everything okay?" Rachel asked. He sighed. "It's an urgent matter with one of my companies, something about an acquisition deal. I might need to fly to San Francisco tomorrow." Rachel set down her coffee, concern creeping in. "For how long? Couple of days, maybe a week." "I'm not certain yet." He exhaled. "I'm sorry about the timing. I hate leaving right after all this drama." She offered a reassuring smile. "Don't worry. Handle your business. I'll be fine." They spent the day together, strolling through the park and browsing a local art exhibit, choosing to ignore the media frenzy swirling around them. Rachel felt a growing sense of security in Elijah's presence, as though together they could weather any storm. Yet beneath her calm, she carried a suspicion that Andrew wouldn't let this incident rest. He thrived on control and hated appearing inferior or overshadowed. Now that Elijah's wealth was public knowledge, Rachel suspected Andrew would feel threatened, and where Andrew felt threatened, trouble tended to follow. Her intuition wasn't wrong. Late that afternoon, just as she was about to head back to her apartment, her phone buzzed with another call from an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Rachel, it's Samantha." The voice trembled with forced composure. "Can we meet? I need to talk to you about Andrew." Rachel's pulse quickened. Samantha, why would she call? She half expected an ambush or a reprimand for overshadowing the engagement soiree. Yet curiosity pushed her to agree. They decided to meet at a quiet tea shop the next day. As Rachel hung up, she felt an uneasy swirl in her stomach. Samantha's tone hadn't been gloating or confrontational. It had sounded almost desperate. Perhaps there were cracks in the perfect facade of Andrew and Samantha's engagement. And if so, what explosive secrets might come spilling out? The next day, a grey sky threatened rain as Rachel slipped into a corner booth at Marlowe's Tea House in Midtown. The small, cosy shop was known for its extensive selection of loose-leaf teas and tranquil ambience. Samantha arrived shortly after, wearing a simple black trench coat over a cream blouse, her posture rigid with tension. "Thank you for meeting me," Samantha said quietly, settling across from Rachel. Her hands trembled slightly as she removed her coat. Rachel scanned Samantha's face, noticing faint circles under her eyes. She didn't look like the radiant fiancée from the engagement party. "No problem," Rachel replied. "What's going on?" A server approached, and Samantha ordered chamomile tea while Rachel asked for Earl Grey. They waited in awkward silence until the server left. Samantha cleared her throat. "I know this might sound strange, but I don't have many people I can talk to about Andrew. He speaks so little of you, but I did some digging. I know how your marriage ended abruptly and painfully." Rachel's stomach clenched. "What do you want to know?" Samantha laced her fingers together. "Is he always this controlling? I've seen glimpses like last night, how he handled the fiasco with your boyfriend. He was furious, not because his father-in-law embarrassed Elijah, but because he felt overshadowed. We had a huge fight afterwards." Rachel studied Samantha's face, weighing how honest to be. She decided there was no point sugarcoating. "Andrew has a need to win," she began. "Everything in our marriage turned into a competition. It wasn't always that way. In college, he was ambitious, but also kind. Over time, though, success became his obsession. He wanted me to meet impossibly high standards, and if I couldn't, he belittled me. That's when we started fighting. He never saw me as his equal. It was always about him." Samantha's eyes welled with tears. "I'm starting to see that too. After last night, he stormed around the penthouse, shouting about how he'd be damned if he let some nobody show him up. I pointed out Elijah's obviously not a nobody, and Andrew lost it." She swallowed, looking down at her hands. "I have money and connections, but Andrew wants me for more than that. He wants me to help him climb higher." Rachel felt a pang of empathy. Despite her resentments, she knew how disarming Andrew's charm could be, how easy it was to get swept up in his big dreams. "So why reach out to me?" Rachel asked gently. Samantha hesitated, glancing around the tea shop as though fearing eavesdroppers. "Because I'm not sure I can go through with this engagement, and I need to know if Andrew's done anything questionable in the past, financially or otherwise. My father is pushing for the wedding, but I'm scared." Rachel's thoughts drifted to the arguments about money in her marriage. Andrew had once suggested they dip into her personal savings to fund a risky business venture. When she refused, he'd called her short-sighted and unsupportive, but did he do anything illegal? Not to her knowledge. "I can't say he ever broke the law," Rachel admitted. "He just manipulates situations to his benefit, often at someone else's expense." Samantha exhaled as though deflated. "I see," she murmured. Their teas arrived and she stirred hers distractedly. "He's pressuring me to sign a prenup that heavily favors him, something about future earnings based on my father's investments." Rachel's eyebrows shot up. That's a huge red flag. I know, Samantha said, tears threatening to spill. He wants me to sign before we set a wedding date. My father sees it as standard business, but I'm not comfortable. And last night, the way he ranted about Elijah made me realize I don't even know this man I'm engaged to. A wave of sympathy washed over Rachel. Despite her anger at Andrew, she couldn't deny that Samantha was trapped in a toxic dynamic. You have every right to be cautious, Rachel said softly. Listen, if you need someone to talk to or a place to clear your head, you can call me. I'm not your enemy, Andrew is my past. Samantha bowed her head. Thank you, I appreciate it. They sipped their tea in pensive silence. After a few minutes, Samantha spoke again. I'm planning to confront Andrew about postponing the wedding until I feel secure about everything. I'm not sure how he'll react. Rachel recalled Andrew's explosive temper when challenged. Whatever you decide, be safe. Andrew can be vindictive if he feels betrayed. Keep your support system close. Samantha nodded, blinking back tears. I will. And Rachel, I'm sorry about how my father treated Elijah. He thinks everyone's after our money. But he was out of line. Rachel smiled gently. Apology accepted. They parted ways outside the tea shop, the clouds overhead threatening a downpour. As Samantha walked off, shoulders hunched against the wind, Rachel felt a swell of complicated emotions, pity for Samantha, disgust for Andrew, and a flicker of relief that she'd escaped that life. Yet she also sensed that this conversation would have repercussions. Andrew, feeling cornered, was capable of lashing out in dangerous ways. And Samantha, if she chose to challenge him, could expose a side of Andrew that Rachel knew all too well, the side that never forgave or forgot perceived slights. A storm was brewing, one that could upend everyone's lives. Rachel woke to a flurry of frantic messages from her best friend, Jessica. Blurry-eyed, she switched on the TV to see a breaking news segment, Andrew Morgan under investigation for fraud. Just days after his self-important engagement soiree, he was now the target of a high-profile inquiry into alleged financial crimes. Reporters claimed he had falsified records in a corporate merger, exploiting his fiancée's family connections for illegal gains. Rachel felt conflicting emotions swirl: shock, vindication, and an odd residual sadness for someone she had once loved. Her phone rang again. Jessica breathlessly filled in the details. Samantha's father, Gerald Preston, had apparently withdrawn all his support, and rumors suggested Samantha herself had turned over incriminating evidence to investigators. Andrew, faced with potential arrest, was desperate and alone. As Rachel mulled over the gossip, an incoming call from an unknown number jolted her. She answered, bracing for whatever came next. Rachel, Andrew's unmistakable voice rasped, I'm out of options. They've frozen my accounts, and Samantha's gone. You have to help me. His words tumbled in a panicked rush. She could practically hear him pacing, fury mixed with disbelief. Andrew, she said curtly, I'm not your wife anymore, and your problems aren't mine. If you forged documents or tricked investors, that's on you. He let out a jagged laugh. Everyone thinks they know better. All these high society people only care about one thing: winning. I played by their rules, and now I'm the villain. Even you're abandoning me. His tone turned accusatory. You realize that Elijah and his billions won't always be there to clean up your messes. Rachel bristled, but kept her voice steady. My life is no longer entangled with yours. Don't ever call me again. He hung up abruptly, leaving her shaken yet oddly liberated. She realized in that moment that Andrew's downfall brought final closure. She had no lingering sense of responsibility. He was merely a cautionary tale of unchecked ambition, and she was done carrying the burden of his mistakes. 2 days later, Rachel's boyfriend, Elijah Saunders, returned from his business trip in San Francisco. The moment she saw him step off the elevator into his penthouse, relief flooded her. Dropping her handbag, she enveloped him in a tight embrace. He stroked her hair, murmuring how much he'd missed her, before she led him to the sofa. "Elijah," she began softly, "while you were away, Andrew's entire world collapsed. He's under investigation." Samantha broke off the engagement, "and he's basically begging me for help." Elijah's brow furrowed in concern. "He called you directly?" She nodded. "He wants money for a better lawyer. I refused." It felt cruel, but I couldn't let him drag me into his chaos again. Elijah exhaled, relief evident. "I'm proud of you for setting boundaries. If you ever feel threatened, I'll do whatever it takes to protect you." They spent the next few hours catching up, discussing the swirl of legal drama and media coverage. Even tabloids took a keen interest, linking Elijah's quiet power with Andrew's spectacular ruin. Rachel hated the gossip, but Elijah reassured her that such rumors would fade. That evening, they attended a charity art auction in support of local artists. As they entered the gallery, photographers snapped pictures of Elijah, now fully recognized as one of the city's most generous philanthropists. Rachel stiffened momentarily at the attention, but he leaned in, whispering, "Relax, we're here for a good cause." Encouraged by his warmth, she explored the various artworks, eventually falling in love with a vibrant modern piece. Elijah outbid everyone else, gifting Rachel the painting with a discreet, triumphant smile. Afterward, they hosted a small gathering with close friends in Elijah's penthouse to celebrate both Rachel's new contract with a boutique hotel chain and the addition of the striking art piece to her design portfolio. Jessica arrived, hugging Rachel and animatedly recounting the latest on Andrew's investigation, from cancelled contracts to outraged investors. While part of Rachel felt a sting of pity, she couldn't deny a sense of affirmation that she had done the right thing by leaving him. Later that night, once the guest departed, Rachel and Elijah sat alone in the softly lit living room. City lights glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, reflecting off the newly mounted painting. With a glass of wine in her hand, Rachel gazed at the skyline and felt a deep current of tranquility. Gone were the days when she doubted her worth because of Andrew's criticisms or endured his backhanded compliments. She turned to Elijah, who was watching her with quiet tenderness. "I never thought I'd end up here," she admitted, voice catching in her throat. "A year ago, I was still broken from the divorce. Now, everything feels possible." Elijah took her hand and gently kissed her knuckles. "You deserve a partner who sees your brilliance, not someone who tears you down to boost his own ego." A small, wry smile curved his lips. "As for the rest, my money, my connections, I want you to know I admire your independence. I'm here to support you, but you've already proved you can stand on your own." His words filled her with a warmth that chased away any lingering insecurity. Together, they stepped up to the wide window, the city spread out below like an endless tapestry of light. Rachel leaned her head on Elijah's shoulder, recalling the battered woman she had been, overshadowed by Andrew's demands, made to feel less than enough. She had reclaimed her life, rediscovered her passion for architecture, and opened her heart to a man who honored her dreams rather than stifled them. Down on the streets, the bright chaos of New York pulsed, uncaring of one man's downfall or another's triumph. Yet in that still, intimate moment, Rachel felt renewed, freed from her past, and embracing a future that shone with possibility. Andrew's tragedy belonged to the tabloids now, while she stood at the edge of a new dawn, hand in hand with a man whose quiet strength and boundless devotion she treasured more than anything. Thank you for joining us on this journey through heartbreak, scandal, and ultimately empowerment. Rachel's story is a testament that even when life collapses around us, when old love turns toxic, and betrayal seems inevitable, we can rise, stronger and wiser. She emerged from her divorce to find true affection in the arms of a billionaire who cherished her not for her bank balance, but for her unwavering spirit. Andrew's downfall was a harsh lesson in pride and ambition gone astray. Yet, in the end, Rachel didn't gloat or seek revenge. She simply moved forward into the happiness she truly deserved. If you found this story gripping, please hit that like button to let us know. Share it with friends who love a good drama, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more riveting tales of love, loss, and redemption. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for watching.